Hi, good morning. It's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing PR and the editor of Punchline magazine. Welcome to Punchline Talks, business briefers, where I sit down with a panel of experts and go over today's newspapers, the news and views, what really affecting our county of Gloucestershire. I've got a great panel today. I'd like to welcome Tim Watkins, managing partner of Randall Payne, Cathryn Hage from Pentacom Agency, managing director of Pentacom Agency, Roger White, managing director of Sevenside Software, and Jenny McLoughlin, finance director of McLoughlin Planning. I knew I was going to get something wrong straight off the top, as I always do. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Punchline Talks. Thanks for getting up so early and getting the newspapers. I've got my big batch of stuff here and going through them. The big news is obviously about Boris Johnson. Will he get a deal? Won't he get a deal? I'll just go around all of you quickly. Jenny, will he get a deal?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Cathryn?
Yes.
Roger?
I'm going to go a no.
A no. Okay. Well, that leads us nicely. I don't think he's going to get a deal either, but there you go. Roger, let's lead on with you then with the newspapers, please. So what have you picked out for us this morning?
Okay, so I've got, obviously Brexit is dominating everything, which is understandable, but I wanted to pick a story, being a computer IT guy, I wanted to pick a story that is a little bit slightly off the main news, but it's about the SpaceX rocket ship launch and test flight from earlier in the week, but there is a bit of coverage of it around in the papers, and I don't know if anybody actually saw the video of the test flight, but it was very spectacular. It did actually end in the rocket ship crashing and in blowing up, really something out of a Hollywood movie. But actually, it was a very successful test flight in the fact that the thing actually went up. And it did actually go vertical and then came back down and almost landed. And this, for people who don't know, this spaceship is going to be a major part of the future in terms of getting us to Mars. And it's a bit like something out of, obviously we see other rockets going up now, launching satellites almost on a weekly basis. There's so many launches, but this one is particularly this one is particularly important because it's the future, and the fact is we're almost getting to a point of something out of Thunderbirds where we launch something and then it comes back down to land, and this rocket is huge and is building on the success of SpaceX. And to me, it's amazing that a private company can do so much so cost effectively compared with a government organization such as NASA, who can spend a fortune and take ages to do things. But the SpaceX successes, particularly with their satellite and Falcon 9 launches, have been phenomenal and very cost effective. And it's an example where private companies can do things better than government. And I think this is an incredible, this is something for the next future of space flight and visiting other planets, that this spectacular test is going to lead on to so much more. The fact that the rocket crashed spectacularly doesn't matter. The fact that it went up, went horizontal, and then came back down and pretty much almost landed. I think there was an engine failure, or one of the engines didn't fire when it should have done, which is why it crashed. But everything else was perfect, and it was a test flight at the end of the day. So being an IT computer geek, I thought I'd share that story with you. I don't know if anybody else has actually seen that.
Only an IT guy would say that something that crashes is successful. It goes to show. Jenny, let's bring you in. Thanks ever so much for that, Roger. What have you picked out for us today?
Well, I've picked out that Airbnb's had an astonishing stock market debut. I find that fascinating for a company that's had 12 years of not making an annual profit. They've gone onto the market and just blown everyone away, now being valued over $100 billion. And this is the market. This is a company that doesn't really have any physical assets, or very little physical assets, and it's worth more than 3 of the world's biggest chains of hotel. But combined, those 3 all combined. And isn't that interesting that also this model, they don't pay any VAT on their income in the UK. And there's talk that maybe Rishi needs to have a look at this, that this company's got so big, so successful, even in a year like this where we're not really traveling, you know, it's all been condensed into a short spell over the summer holidays. That value has been able to amass. But also, isn't it a good thing that a company like that with technology and the ability to look at a need in the market has succeeded to all intents and purposes? You know, it's definitely a model worth looking at, that not everything is about bricks and mortar anymore.
No, I totally agree, and that leads us very nice when you talk about tax. That leads us very nice onto Tim. Hello, Tim. Thanks for joining us as well. Obviously from Randall Payne, well-known accountancy firm. Tim, what have you picked out from the papers today, sir?
Well, the first one I think links a little bit to what Roger was saying about the private sector and so on. But the one that caught my eye first was the test and trace fiasco, if I can call it that, where they've thrown money at it. And I think they're saying in the paper that some people have just been sat there effectively paid to watch Netflix. So you just wonder, government money being thrown at these things. And I fully accept, you know, that nobody expected this to come along, and nobody was prepared for it and never seen it before, and how do we cope? But it does seem to be a case of throw money at anything and everything to see if it helps, and they certainly have with the test and trace. And you just wonder if perhaps the private sector had been a bit more involved in it. Perhaps there wouldn't have been so much waste. We're looking at a huge national debt when we come out of this, and obviously every bit of savings we could have made would have helped. So that's sort of caught my eye. I thought, oh, here we go again. And there's been other stories about it of late, isn't there? There's throwing money at these things and things that don't work. So yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, government's never very good at procuring stuff like this, is it? They tend to get it wrong. Just look at nuclear submarines, but we won't go into that sort of politics of things, I don't think. Cat, good morning and welcome to Punchline Talks. It's always great to see you. Cat, who runs the PR for Pied Piper and a very successful own agency as well. Cat, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I always don't like to use the word show, really. It's not really a show. It's a nice little get together. It's a bit big it up a little bit. Cat, anyway, what's caught your eye in today's papers?
Well, I sort of stayed away from the main headlines that were dominating all of the papers, and I've gone a little bit more local, actually. And what caught my eye, because I'm sort of very interested in the planet, the environment, and climate change. And Dale Vince, so maybe something for your stocking fillers, has brought out a book called Manifesto. And it's on the sort of in every bookshop that you could imagine, so you can grab a copy. But what's quite interesting with him is his backstory from the days of a traveller to a very successful businessman with his green power, ecotricity, and also the great things that he's doing at Forest Green, you know, a completely vegan football club. And what he's doing there is catching the eye of the national, international sporting world in his model. And you know, it's very interesting that the whole club is vegan. And no meat at all for fans or players, fans when they come back. But his sort of interesting point is that he's trying to influence change to protect the planet, and now he's wondering whether a role as a politician is the best way that he can go in and bring the lagging government up to speed on the sort of the Greta Thunberg type of messaging. And you know, he's looking to have behavioural change, and he thinks that from within government he could help change policies, you know, better, really. I mean, ecotricity with its renewable energy, electric cars, you know, he's pioneering all of this. And you know, it's very, very interesting what he's doing and championing. So watch this space with regard to him on the political scene, I think.
I totally agree. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing him. He's on the Business Experts, the half-hour interview I had with him. He doesn't do that many interviews. It's a real privilege to get the chance to chat to him for so long on a one-to-one basis. And he was plugging his book, which was quite good as well. So yeah. I mean, I just think he's a creative marketing genius, really. Anyway, let's move on. Thanks ever so much for that, Kat. I'm going to go back over to you, Jenny. I've never really had the chance to talk to you very much. Can you tell us, please? So, you're run a planning company. What's it been like for you over the last couple of months? What's the big issues affecting your business?
Well, we came out of the first lockdown slightly sort of bruised, I suppose, where a lot of our clients had been furloughed, and so there hadn't been very much work coming in, and it had gone quite quiet. I think the whole country went into a sense of collective shock, and then I think the British Reserve came in, and we started to get quite busy, and then busier and busier, and fingers crossed, this, although we had the second lockdown, it still continued. I think with children still at school, and it just didn't feel as severe a lockdown as the first one. And I think because there was an end sight on it as well, we just all hunkered down for a month and got on with it. And people had become accustomed to using Zoom and Teams and all those other things. And I feel like there's a lot of positivity around, actually. I think there's a lot to be hopeful for in 2021, not least the vaccine, but just the fact that unlike 2008, 2009, there is still money in the system. There is, it's back then all the money just evaporated and no one wanted to build, no one had the money to build. But we're finding people still want to have those conversations. There's still stuff going on. And, in Punchline this week, you looked at Gloucestershire Council looking at £480 million budget, and all the development in there, with the new schools and things. That's, it's really exciting time, actually, rather than feeling quite as oppressed and worried as perhaps 2008, where we set up, 2009 when we set up McLoughlin Planning. Now doesn't feel like that. It feels very positive, and I hope that's the case for a lot more sectors. I mean, for me, I feel the hospitality and retail and certainly the arts have struggled an awful lot, and it's been great to see the likes of the Everyman and the Rose Theatre in Tewkesbury being able to do something even in these times. And that's that British resilience coming through, that we will just try and do the best we can with what we've got.
Is there a particular area of planning that's coming to the fore? Is there more people? I don't know your area of expertise as such.
We're a general practice planning consultancy, so we'll put a hand to most sorts of planning. Particularly strategic land is an area that we work a lot in, and that's obviously long-term developments and looking over things over many years. And that was partly where some of our clients went quite quiet, because the teams were furloughed and we didn't have people to talk to. But even during that time, all the councils, the local authorities had their case officers working from home. And, certainly residential planning was very much coming in and going out, and very able to be done quickly. And, we're thankful to those case officers for, making that effort working from home. It's all been quite positive, really, across the board.
Well, that's great. So that's great to hear, and I hear the same thing all the time. There are some companies who are doing fantastically well, and there are others who, unfortunately, their businesses are, the rug has just been pulled from them. Thanks for that, Jenny. Tim, is this what you're finding at Randall Payne? What's it been like for you guys?
Yeah, I quite agree with what Jenny said. I think, thank God for Zoom and so forth. If this had been a few years ago, I'm not sure how we'd have all managed. But I think it was very quick and easy to switch over to Zoom and GoToMeeting and things like that, and more or less to carry on. And our guys were up and running within a couple of days of it all, the first lockdown taking effect. I think where I wouldn't say struggled, but I think in terms of the firm itself, the isolation of the staff, not being together and so on, has probably hit a bit harder than we expected. In terms of clients, as you say, some have done very well, some not so well, unfortunately. There's been lots of help out there, and quite a bit of our time has been spent making sure they take advantage of that help where it's available. So that's kept us busy.
How do you think the
Go
Chancellor
back
is going
to when it first kicked off.
Sorry, Tim. How do you think the Chancellor is going to get all this money back that he spent?
Well, early days that they started talking about changes to capital gains tax, and that seems to be one of the areas that they will concentrate on. It's one of those things where as soon as they mention we're putting something forward to the tax simplification department, something's going to happen. And they did that, and there's talk about there's entrepreneurs relief, tax on properties and so forth, the rates going up. So I'm guessing that's going to be one of the things that they'll look at. Jenny mentioned the Airbnb, and there's other similar things where VAT and tax perhaps hasn't been levied in the same way as other businesses. And there was something yesterday about him perhaps looking at that as being a means of getting something in. And then there's always that thorny question of the online businesses, your Amazons and so on, as to how much revenue they're generating in the UK and what tax they're paying. So I think he's got scope to look at quite a few things, as well as the usual, which they came into government with the triple lock, I think, didn't they? So can he really break that? Circumstances have changed. It's going to be interesting to see, but certainly capital gains tax looks a favourite for trying to get some money back.
I mean, personally speaking, I think they've got to tax the Amazons of the world, the B&Bs, or not B&Bs, the Airbnbs, all of those sorts of companies, really. Surely that there needs to be a level playing field now.
Yeah, I think for a long time now we've had different limits. Certainly looking at VAT, where businesses below a certain size don't have to charge VAT, and you've got that situation where those hovering around that registration limit, if you're just over it, you're 20% more expensive to everybody. If you're below it, you're cheaper. So there's certainly, I know it's politically difficult because we've always had that limit, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a level playing field when you've got businesses around that sort of size. And what the take would be, but I would imagine if 20% on businesses below that level, unfortunate for them, I'd probably appreciate more record keeping and so forth, but there's quite a take, I suspect.
Okay, thanks, Tim. The sort of, I don't know why, but the network bandwidth is a little bit lower today. I don't know why, but then that brings us very nicely onto Roger. Not that your bandwidth is low, Roger.
My bandwidth's fine, thanks, Mark.
I've talked to you before about the sort of business, but that was a little while ago. So how's it gone for you now? The most people have got their second amount of kit, their cameras, their mics, their laptops. So what have you been up to then? What's it in the IT section like?
I echo really what Jenny said with the second lockdown. It's nothing like the first lockdown in terms of, it was more the British spirit of we're going to, in business, in terms of we're going to keep going as much as possible, whilst being safe, of course. And we're seeing a lot of demand for kit still, laptops, a lot of installations of new servers and kit, even though we're all moving to the cloud. Obviously, this is for different reasons, different sizes of companies. So for us, in terms of installations, it's been very busy time, and nothing like the first lockdown when it just went absolutely dead, where everybody was furloughed. It's quite interesting now as well. Trying to get hold of items is proving quite difficult. We've seen in the news the situation with the ports, and items being stuck in the ports and so on. So that's manifesting itself in difficulty of getting kit. You quote something and then you go to order it and it's not available for whatever reason. So it takes a lot more time to source items, and obviously you can it's still very difficult to get webcams and inkjet printers and so on. Big shortage of those type of things. Which is understandable, given that that's what everybody wants for their home working. So even though you'd think that everyone got all the kit from the first lockdown, we're still seeing a high demand for these items, and then it's difficult. You can get them, but it just takes more time to source things. Although inkjet printers and webcams are still a big issue, which you would expect, really.
I would imagine a lot of people are upgrading their kit as well. They might have bought something cheap and cheerful the first time round,
Yes.
and now, like me, they've actually invested in something quite big. And
Yes.
don't go there.
No
And
comments.
is that what's happening as
and
well?
that's definitely what's happening. It's quite interesting that people are investing in there, clearly with the lockdown situation and video conference calling and Zoom. Other products are available, of course. The people are investing in their kit, not just laptops, but kit generally. So I echo the point of view and the experience that people are still investing. Money is still there to be investing. I don't know whether part of that is because of the government supports that's available. That has possibly encouraged more investment in kit. But the other interesting side is that the software development side for bigger projects we're finding is a bit quieter. But we're wondering whether the Brexit situation will lead to quite a bit of last minute system changes and work, because if we are going to go with a no deal, I know the majority of everyone this morning feels that we will get a deal, but if we don't get a deal, I think a lot of companies are not prepared for a no deal Brexit, and we are actually wondering whether we're going to see quite a lot of panicky system changes and enhancements and so on. So it'd be interesting to see whether it gets quite busy with system changes at the last minute. I don't know. That's something I'm not sure about.
Well, I keep my fingers crossed as a bad Brexit, so you can win lots of business, Rod.
Yeah, we always tend to do quite well out of disasters, I have to say. But anyway.
Okay, well, that moves us. Thank you so much, mate. Thanks and it's costing me a fortune in waistcoats, by the way. Kat.
Yes.
So I know you do a fantastic job for the Pied Piper. Absolutely. Most people don't realize that you're behind the scenes, getting all that press coverage, getting them on radio. And you do this from your own time as well.
Yeah.
What's that like? What's the secret of getting good PR for a charity? Because they really need it. Maybe some sort of bit of advice. What would you say to them?
Well, keep it real and let people know every penny that they give, how it's being spent, and that circular message. People love to know what we're needing to support the children. They want to know where the money is going, and they like to see the good stories that come out of it and the help. And that just, that's all the PR you need really, is just to show what what we're doing with the money, and how we're helping sick and disabled children, sending children on holidays, life-limiting illnesses. So it's memory making with their families. So it's just telling stories really, and showing how we need the money, and how, every penny that we raise in Gloucestershire is spent on children in Gloucestershire. It's we're a local charity for the local children, and we're crossing all areas of the NHS and special schools and mental health. The paediatric mental health is a growing area for us. Mental health is a growing area for us as a nation. So certainly for children. And there's a correlation between parents that are struggling mentally and then that effect on their children. So you have to protect the children and give them a positive environment in which to thrive. So I'm just very passionate about it, and rising to the challenge and running events and doing the PR as well for the charity as a trustee. So fabulous organisation, fabulous team, army of volunteers behind the scenes. And of course, we've had the guts ripped out of revenue generation during 2 lockdowns. So we've had to be very creative and turn to the virtual world. But we had a virtual, we hooked up with the Gloucester Quays Rotary, and we had a virtual cycle ride in the summer and raised £4,000. I got in touch with Chris Evans, Virgin Radio, his auction company, in the summer, and they ran a bid-in auction for us online for free. So they did all software behind it. We just had to come up with the prizes, and we raised over £16,000 virtually online in August. So people are very, very generous, even in times of hardship. Okay, we might have got £1,000 for something before, and now we get 100, but we're still so very, very grateful for every penny that we get. And just this week, Freeman Event Partners, they collected 100 toys for the children's centre, wrapped them all up and brought them along. On Sunday, we're doing like a supermarket sweep trolley dash at Smith's with Brunston Financial, again collecting toys for the children to sort of brighten up their time over Christmas when they're in hospital and around the holiday period. So there's always something to do, something to do. And the big thing for me as a self-employed marketing bod is prioritizing client time versus charity time.
I was going to say about that, actually, because that's just typifies you. Actually, you have an opportunity to plug your own business, and you spend most of the time, or 95% of the time, plugging the Pied Piper. And I've got to take my hat off to you for that.
Yes.
I know that you look after a number of clients. What's the secret of running it, or how's it been running a PR agency during lockdown?
Yes, well, it's interesting, Mark, because it's more than just PR now. The social media side is huge for me, and with marketing, in a downtime, you should do more. It's that old adage, isn't it? So when you come into the good times, you're there, and your awareness and your presence and your branding is strong. So but people don't have all the money. They've had to cut back. When they're putting staff on furlough, and they're not being able to spend money in that same way, and then they're not sure of their own revenue streams. So marketing has been hurt, but it hasn't gone away. It hasn't gone to a fat zero. So people are saying, okay, let's just be sensible and let's just scale back and then ramp up when 2021 hits. And I think, as Jenny was saying, I think the optimism for 21 in business is strong. And my clients are saying that they're using all the support and the furlough schemes to help protect their business and make sure there is a business for staff to come back to when furlough finishes, and next year when they bring staff back gradually in Q1 21. So outsourcing for marketing is really a very cost-effective way, and where clients can buy on an ad hoc basis, marketing support services, social media, PR, whatever it happens to be, not so much on the events because we're not allowed to do those, but to buy as they need rather than increase headcount.
Yes.
So it's a great model, not just in marketing, in a lot of areas of business.
Oh, thanks for that, Kat. I'm going to just quickly, because we're going to wrap up the time. Would you believe how quickly it all goes?
Oh.
So I'm just going to go between you all. Is there a story, first of all, with you? I'll start with you, Kat. Something that's caught your eye in Punchline this week. Has there been a story that's caught your eye?
Yes, there is actually, and it was East Gloucestershire investing 250k in paddle tennis, and I play tennis, normal tennis, and this interested me because it's a way that they can bring a new emerging sport that the LTA has taken on board, and they can bring that, be one of the first pioneering clubs in the country, but also it's a great way to add something new and added value to their membership, because they are looking to protect their membership as a sports club, and they have been hit, of course. So by doing something new and investing, I think that's admirable, and it looks to be a fun sport. It looks to be a mix of tennis and squash. You play it with walls and you bounce off the walls, but you've got a solid bat, not a string back racket, and it's a smaller court. You play doubles, and the balls are a different sort, so you're playing a lot lower, so it's quite physical. So that looks quite interesting. So hats off to East Gloucester for doing that.
Great stuff. Roger, is there a story that's caught your eye this week from Punch?
Yes, the one that caught my eye was this eviction ban extension for commercial property. I'm thinking particularly of hospitality businesses in the pandemic who have been absolutely destroyed by this. And the news, the Punchline article is saying about the fact that businesses can't be evicted for non-payment of their rent, commercial, obviously, stuff. until March. So there's a ban on evictions until after March next year, and I think this is quite right. Just thinking of hospitality in particular, where they're just totally destroyed, and obviously there's coverage about normal rent, domestic rent arrangements, but this caught my eye because of the commercial side and the fact that businesses can't be evicted until after March. And I think this is a good move. We've got to do everything we can to help businesses survive, and especially hospitality, because we're still going to want to go out when this is all over. And if we're not careful, there won't actually be anywhere to go. So
okay, thanks, Roger. Tim, what's caught your eye from Punchline?
What caught my eye was a little story yesterday about the theatre in Tewkesbury and the almost a Christmas Carol that they're going to be putting on. We haven't been able to go out a great deal of late, obviously, and something like that we can go along to. I think we've got tickets here to go to theatre in Cheltenham over Christmas and see something there. Just get out and spend a little bit of money and keep these places going. I think the figure was 2% of normal income they'd had this year, which is terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
you imagine losing 98% of your business. Just can't imagine it, really.
No.
Can't imagine it, can you? So good luck to them.
Thanks for that, Tim. Jenny, we'll wrap up with you. And what's the last story that one?
Well, I saw the end of a chapter, really, with the ending of the IKEA catalogue. I thought that was quite, we're so dependent with our screens these days. As much as it's great that we're not using paper and we're not printing these things. Actually, sometimes, like today when we were doing the paper review, I wanted a physical paper in front of me. I didn't want it on my iPad, so I could circle things and I could tap the edge down so I knew where it was in something. And it just seems, I don't know, maybe I'm getting old fashioned, but I think that's rather sad that we're losing an institution like that.
I agree, actually. I felt quite sorry about the yellow pages going, but maybe that's just showing my age, really.
Yes.
So you always wanted that signal box, Mark.
That wraps it up for today. Thanks ever so much for my panel for joining. So that's it for today. Half hour gone already. So I'd just like to say a big thank you to all of you. Big thank you to everybody who's watched, and for now, bye-bye.